Welcome to How to Decorate from Ballard Designs, a weekly podcast all about the trials and triumphs of decorating and redecorating your home. I'm Caroline, I'm on the marketing team.
And I'm Taryn, and I'm a product designer.
I'm Liz, I head up the creative team.
We're your hosts. Join the expert team at Ballard Designs for tips, tricks, and tales from interior designers, stylists, and other talents in the design world.
Plus, we'll answer your decorating dilemmas at the end of each episode.
We love answering your questions, so don't forget to email us at podcast@ballarddesigns.net.
Now, on with the show.
We have one of our favorites, a big treat for y'all today. He is an 8-time author, and he's releasing his latest book, Home Again, A Return to Gracious Interiors, Mr. James Farmer from Perry, Georgia.
Hey, Caroline. Hey, Liz.
Hey. You're one of our favorites. You've been on the show many times before, and I know that you're one of our audience favorites because I have multiple friends who tell me that yours are their favorite episodes.
That's sweet.
It's such a treat to get to chat with you again.
Thanks, girls.
And talk about your new book, Home Again. 8 books is a wild number. And I feel like we have to start there because I'm curious how you keep going. What makes you want to keep writing books? And what was the initial sort of inspiration vision for this one?
Well, okay. So loaded question. And the answer really goes back to college. And even before college, it went back to kindergarten. I know that sounds really strange, but so in kindergarten, our teacher, so I'm from a small town, and me and my middle sister and my 3 first cousins, we all had the same kindergarten teacher. And so we all have these stories about, her. But one of our assignments in kindergarten was we took some construction paper and folded them, and we made a book. And I was so excited because we have a big military base in our community. So I wanted to do this patriotic book. And there was a girl in my class named Amber. And so Amber Ways of Grain. And so I drew Amber, she's waving in a hayfield, and, fruited plains. Well, I didn't think plains were fields. I thought planes were, airplanes. So I drew airplanes with grapes hanging off of them. And my book was called America the Beautiful by James Farmer. And I thought this was the best book ever written. And then there was a kid next to me, and he was, real country, like from the sticks. And his mama was always like, all right, you be purty now. And he was like, yes, ma'am, I'll be purty. And I guess that meant behave and so on and so forth. So he wrote a book about a squirrel. And I was like, just devastated that our teacher chose him to read his book in front of the class. And it was about a squirrel that found an acorn and put the acorn in a nest. And I'm like, that is so unoriginal. So I was mildly devastated in kindergarten when this kid wrote a book about a squirrel. But my teacher said, James, anyone can write a book. And so that kind of stuck with me. And I'm like, yeah, anyone, especially this kid. But all that said, when I was in college, I had a professor who had written a book, and we used it as a textbook. And then I thought, I would love to write a book that, you could put on your coffee table, that you could pull out and think, oh, let me look up, when do I cut hydrangeas? Or how do I set a table? Does the fork on the left or the right? And so the idea of kind of a series of books really came about in college. And this was right before social media. So that's kind of how, a book, a magazine, that's really how you published or perished. But then after college, I started working and I started my design career, which really started as a kid. I mean, my mother's friends were paying me to tell them what color to paint their front doors when I was a kid. And all that said was, I was like, okay, these books, like it can be in the garden, then it could be on the table, and then it can be interiors. And so it really started, kindergarten, college, and then the advent of social media was huge because I didn't have to just wait for it to print. You could, put it on a blog or whatever. But what I love in particular about my books is that it's tactile. You can stack my books together. You can mix them with your other favorite designers and authors. And there's just something about a stack of books. And I'm just so excited I get to do that as part of my part of my grown-up job.
It's really beautiful too. I'm not sure that this was your intention, but it's almost like a serial memoir or something, right? Like it's cataloging your own growth and changes stylistically. And, of course, you write in the introduction and then in the chapter about your own home changes, about, your own life and changes to what it looks like and things that prompted you to redecorate. And so I love that it sort of records your own life in there. That's really cool.
Thanks, Caroline. It did. My editor, who I have worked with on all the books over the last 10 years, she really pushed me to write from the heart, as opposed to I painted this wall, Ben Moore, Sherwin-Williams, yada, yada, yada. Or this house is, this old and I use this faux front chest or whatever. She really encouraged me on that respect, because I've written from a place where, a house, it's a dwelling, it's a structure, but what I've really tried to integrate into my brand is the definition of home, because home is so much more emotional than house. And so I really like to commend my editor for encouraging me with that. And in the last 10 years, a lot of life has happened. And I didn't, when the water was trickling down the walls like it's not supposed to, I was thinking, well, my people who I've loved and lost are no longer here. And I started getting sentimental about it. And I thought, no, Mama would have loved this. She would say, yes, get a new sofa, get new wallpaper, and I thought I had to channel that. So I do think that's where some of the sentimentality and kind of emotion came from as well.
And I have to point out that several of your books, especially the recent ones, all have the word home in them. Like that you kind of have an ongoing, yeah. I'm a good student.
You are doing so good. See, Caroline, anyone can write a book.
Anyone can start a podcast too.
Yes. You're doing and I love it.
Liz, I'm going to give you a second to jump in here because otherwise.
I just love this because I'm just here for the ride too. You two have had such a story, working on different projects,
friends.
And you guys are old friends now, so yes. I'm along for the ride.
Well, Liz can attest that before we started recording, we were talking about home tours, and Caroline's been to my homes. And so, Liz, now you'll have to come along and come hang out at Farmdale or Joe Pie.
I would love to. I mean, these are the most comfortable looking homes imaginable. You do such an incredible job mixing a sense of tradition with comfort. And there's just every space feels like everything was just gently placed in just the right spot. And it's so inspiring. And you feel comfortable looking through this book and reading through this book.
Thank you so much. That's heartfelt praise, and I do appreciate that so much. Thank you, Liz.
Well, I did have to ask about your own house because I have to admit, I had the book. I've been to your house a couple times, and I had the book sitting on my coffee table and on my desk for several weeks now. And not until I was actually reading that chapter did I realize that is your formerly dining room.
Yeah.
That you redecorated.
Yeah.
Even though I've been in that room and I kept looking at it and just thinking this is a beautiful James Farmer room. Then I got to it and I was like, oh, I know this space.
Yeah.
Okay, weird. Yeah. So that I was sort of kicking myself because I was like, I didn't even recognize it. So why don't we start there?
Okay.
Because you have been in your home, Farmdale, which you built, and we did a house tour on it last summer. You've been in there 10 years. You're saying you mentioned that you had a little leak that prompted you to do some changes.
Yes.
So why don't you walk us through that? Because I do love the idea that you did a real switcheroo in your living room and dining room, because I think that's a great lesson for people.
Okay, just because a room is labeled something doesn't mean it has to stay like that forever. So when I built my house 10 years ago, I was single. My sisters were single. If it was the three, our parents are no longer. So that said, it's like, well, the three of us would get together and maybe a couple cousins, and they were all single as well. It was a fun time. And so maybe there'd be a handful of us. So the dining room was a little more removed from the kitchen originally. And um, I just kept noticing that as an in-law, as a new baby, as people, it doesn't matter how big your house is, everyone ends up in the kitchen. And I kept thinking, I need a little more room. And so honestly, I had a friend of mine who's an architect draw this kitchen and addition, and it just didn't feel right. It didn't, the foundation and the changing and the roof line. And I just kept thinking, well, my dining room is huge and we eat in there, a handful of times. And I thought, well, what if I just switched it up? So my aunt, she has a dinnerware company. And so I love using her dinnerware and I have lots of her pieces. And we were joking and she said, where are you going to, your dining room? Because I had a big Welsh dresser in there and a sideboard. And she said, where are you going to store everything? And in my kitchen, I'd had open shelves and some lower cabinets. And I said, well, funny, I'm going to build cabinets in a kitchen, like some novel original idea. But what I did was by moving the dining room adjacent to the kitchen, for me and for my family, it made so much sense because the island then became the buffet. Because I could serve all the island truly, like everyone walks around the island and can serve themselves and they can land at the kitchen table or the dining room table and it's all right there. But we got laughing because now the living room, formerly dining room, I did 2 seating areas either side. And it's kind of like this really fun kind of hotel lobby. Like you walk in the front door right into the living room and it's more formally arranged. It's a touch dressier. There's no TV. But I love it because it's this like solarium meets salon. And I just was like, hey, when else do I get to do that? So my family was along for the ride. And then, it just went from this point of life where it was either 2 of us, and I write about this, 2 of us having scrambled eggs on a Sunday night or 20. Like there's never an in between. So just the function had to play itself out.
You mentioned in the book about your living room being cozy enough for 2 or cozy enough for 20.
Yeah.
What's the key to really building out a space like that?
I think it comes down to geometry. So I'm terrible at math, Liz, but I'm great at geometry. So I can tell you how many yards you need, how many rolls of wallpaper, the repeat for chair bottoms or a skirted table. Gotcha. So I think it comes down to that as well. If you have a sofa and a chair that are perpendicular, that form that right angle, immediately if you're sitting in the chair and you're sitting on the end of the sofa, your knees are touching or you're already more intimate because you've turned towards one another. That kind of creates those tete-to-tete, those kind of moments. And so by having a sofa with chairs either side, either end of the sofa and either, chair are both going to form these immediate, perpendicular right angles where we're more intimate. We really are. We are, our knees are touching. Or if you want to, touch someone's arm, it's right there. Or, if you're reaching for your cup of coffee on the coffee table, it's right there. You're much more together. So the geometry of furniture placement is huge. And I like to push the furniture together and then have open spaces. So there's a open space in the room and it allows kind of for breathing room between the two. But I really can, I can seat, a baker's dozen to 20 in there quickly. And that's what my family does is we pile in. And then I also, not having a television in there, that's where we go to talk. That's where we go to chill and hang out because there's a whole other room for the TV. And if that's what we're doing, if we're watching the Auburn game or whatever our family's gathering to do, then that's that purpose. But I just kept finding there's a crew of us who are just chit-chatting and talking. And I get tired of standing in the kitchen. And it's like, y'all, come on, the living room's right there. Let's go. So it's that geometry of arrangement that to me turns them towards one another.
Okay, I think the designers do this so well. And the opposite of what a lot of, us normal people, we feel like we need more space. Like you need more space in between chairs and stuff. Whereas I feel like designers are always like sort of not crowding, but squishing
Yeah.
things together.
Yep.
So what is sort of your mental allotment in terms of inches for
Okay.
what's a good amount that's tight but not too tight?
Right,
Okay.
because we all got to get in there.
Okay. Yes. We all got to get in there. All right. So let me answer your question by kind of proposing. Okay. I can get real nerdy if you want me to, Caroline, but let me
Yes,
talk
we
about
do.
this. So seat height. So seat height is about 20 inches. It needs to be right at 20 inches, as does a coffee table. So if a coffee table is that much higher or that much lower, to me, then you're bending down or you're reaching up. So think about the form and the function of the room. And so if everyone's seated at the same level, but then let's say that you have this one chair that's real low. Well, the next thing you know, you've got someone who's kind of like a toad frog. And then you have someone who's real proud like a peacock. So you want to set the tone first off with like your seat height. And then you think about like tables. Tables are all 30 inches tall. And like there's something about that ratio of, seat height, table height. And then you get into things like counter height or an entry table that can be taller. So all that said is like there's this fun game of inches and geometry and even just that skill of scale. So what I like to do is if a sofa and a chair are going to meet, if they can be perpendicular and form that right angle, that's great. Then give it just a little room. It doesn't have to be too far. Let the sofa and two chairs either side, let them be a unit almost. A section,
So like 6 inches?
Yeah, 4, 5,
12?
6 inches. I think a foot is more than plenty, but I like to keep it tight. And then you have a really good right angle where the sofa arm and the chair arm, or excuse me, the chair leg and the sofa leg kind of meet. You form a right angle where your sofa and your chair meet at that plane. So that right angle, that corner, fit a circle into there, and that's great, and that's geometry right there. So if you have kind of a unit of a sofa and two chairs and a coffee table or ottoman, that's like a block. It's like a unit, and then you can have negative space in other places. My dear friend and photographer Emily Followell always says, we're looking through at an image, and she'll say, negative space isn't always negative. And when she said that to me one time, I was like, wow. Because I was thinking I need to fill that corner with a branch, or I need a ficus tree there, or whatever it was. And sometimes it's so nice to have those tight spaces that are full, that are gracious, but then you have those areas that are spacious. And to me, our minds love that. It's like salt on a chocolate chip cookie. Something about it works. It's hard to explain the science of it, but y'all are both nodding because you're like, yes, a salt, like coffee, ice cream, or whatever it is.
Yeah,
it all
the
kind of
salty with
just
the sweet. They kind of balance each other out and accentuate each other.
Balance. Exactly, Liz. Exactly.
Yeah, I love the idea of that little unit and then air on it, like negative space on either side. And I think that often, especially in like a big open space, people like want big pieces of furniture and they want to fill like the whole space evenly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they want to distribute all the furniture kind of evenly within the room. But I kind of like what you're saying, where like you're sort of creating like a little unit and then maybe a little unit over there. And then there's more, the emptiness is in chunks, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it goes back to a lot of like historical inspiration and some of the most fabulous rooms. Like we were on a trip to England this summer, and whether it was a hovel of a Cotswolds cottage or Blenheim Palace, they all had the same thing. You went in there because you were too cold outside and you needed warm inside, or it was raining, you had to come in. But when all said and done, whether it's a palace or a little cottage, everyone gravitates towards the fire, or if it's the kitchen, to the stove. And so you think about it, just arrange it to how the room needs to be, but it's okay to give light and air and space and create it. We're working with some friends right now, and she said something about, I just really need a game table. And I thought, why are you apologizing about that? It's your house. You need a game table? Okay, we'll work it in. So I think that's also a big part as well, is don't be apologetic. You can just say, look, we live in this room and the chairs are closer to the fireplace, whatever it is. And to me, that gives your home that sense of a true dwelling.
So you talked about the function of your living room and dining room switch. What about the decorative changes? Like what were you excited to incorporate? What were you sad to get rid of or
move to a different space? Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So this was so much fun. Both of my sisters bought houses in this time when I was rearranging. And because I'm the one that still lives in our hometown, I kind of was hoarding a lot of the heirlooms from our grandparents and from our parents. And so I loved that I could say, all right, Maggie, this is Mama's console. All right, Meredith, here's Mama's sideboard, whatever it is. And I kind of was able to then buy things for myself because I've always decorated a lot with things that were other people's, like especially in the family. I love giving homage and tradition, and I can be the most sentimental person on the planet. Oh, Caroline sat here. Oh, that was Liz's coaster. I could be so, but those also are things, and they may not operate the way that I need them to right now. So for me, I was in Atlanta, and I was looking for some artwork. So I decided that the new living room, I was doing these 2 seating areas, and I needed 2 large paintings either side. I have 2 large mirrors that were already in there, and I left them. And the grass cloth that's in that room was originally, it's still the same grass cloth, but it was originally this kind of, I think the color was called flax or linen or something, hemp or jute or, one of the colors. But y'all, it has faded to like the lightest melon peach color. And I can't recreate that. That's good. So it's like, well, I left that. I had our wallpaper guy touch up a couple places where it kind of peeled off the walls. But I was in Atlanta and I was looking for some art, and I found this absolutely fabulous screen. And this hand-painted screen, 6 huge panels, peach and coral and terracotta and cream, and it was Italian and marbleized, but yet so simple. And I thought, wait, that's 6 panels, 3 and 3. I can hang 3 over this sofa, 3 over that sofa. And, I don't ever know the artist's name, but you know what? There's not another one like it. And that was kind of the epicenter right there. And then I kind of stuck with my palette of peach green and animal print, add a plaid, and here we go.
Fabulous. That screen is really spectacular.
Thank you. It
It's
was
no
such
wonder
a
you put
fun.
it on the cover.
Exactly.
Mhm. And I will say there's a hidden little Ballard Designs piece on the cover too.
Oh, there is, absolutely, right there,
Mhm.
front and center. It's the little etagere, little plant stand. I love it.
Mhm. Yes, we no longer make it, but maybe we need to because it looks so
I think
good
you
in the little
should.
spot you got. I know. Yeah, we bring
I
it
think you
back.
should.
We'll call it the James.
Good. It's dainty but sturdy, kind of like me. Yes, I'm 6'4", 200 and something pounds, and I love peach and green and dainty little wire etageres and with a begonia and a myrtle topiary on them. Gosh.
Okay, let's talk about some of the other projects in the book.
Okay.
One of my favorites was the condo downtown in Auburn because
Yeah.
you took what I can only assume was a boring white box and turned it into something utterly fabulous. So walk us through that because I think we could all picture that type of space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before, I mean.
Yeah.
And it does not look like it is in a downtown condo at all.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you. That was the goal. So our clients, they did one of the best things that a client can do to a designer, and they said, "Okay, we trust you." And he's an engineer. I couldn't even begin to do his job, and he said, "All right, I trust you." So this condo, the whole building, like it wasn't there when I was in college, but I walked past it every single day. I lived about 2 blocks away, and it's across the street from the art school. So as an art history major, so I did art history and horticulture because I love design and plants. So I'm told y'all I'm a nerd. But I walked past this, 2 or 3 times a day, every day for 5 years. And if college James knew what grown-up James was going to do there one day, like, I don't think he'd believe it. So our clients, when we found out that, they're not just coming for a football game, a few Saturdays each year. They truly wanted to have a home in Auburn where they could stay with their family, with the grandchildren. It is across the street from Toomer's Corner and the art school, so I was very familiar with it. But the only other thing that the client said I thought was so interesting is they said, all right, we don't need to be orange and blue with a lot of tiger stripes. Because truly, you're looking onto Toomer's Corner. It's like, if you need Auburn, there's the sign. Truly, there's the sign right outside the window. So I got to thinking about it, and I thought, well, a shell, this white box shell that's just sheetrock, the first thing that it's lacking is, definition. And to me, it was just asking for it. So, there's this big, huge space that's supposed to be the kitchen, the living room, the dining room. And I thought, this is Auburn. Like, Acre is 1 block away. Hamilton's is out the back door, like Big Blue Bagel for breakfast every morning. Like, you're not going to sit down with 18 people and eat dinner in here. You're going to walk outside the door and go eat. And so when we kind of started defining it, we realized that we needed more so areas where you could sit to, if you're not at the game, be able to watch the game. You needed to be able to, entertain like a big island as opposed to a smaller island that a lot of condos have, and then a dining area. Like, we figured out what our clients needed, but because it was a shell, we were able to build in things that oftentimes have to be front and center. So we were able to build in, like, the wine refrigerator, the ice maker, the cabinets, and things like that into kind of another area. So we were able to borrow, because it was just space. We were able to kind of create. The best analogy that I'll use is it was more of like a loft than it was a condo because of like the volume of it. And it was just one of my favorite projects to date. And, we added crown molding, and, the ceiling didn't have to be a drop ceiling. We were able to panel, we were able to put pretty wallpaper, engineered hardwood floor has come so far. You don't have to have the clicky clacky sound, because of, there were some variants that we couldn't change, like a poured slab was there, but guess what? Great tile in all the bathrooms. And we had so much fun with it. And, when we revealed it to our clients, they're real avid supporters of Auburn athletics, in particular, the basketball team. And so they brought some of the basketball players. Y'all, I'm 6'4", okay? Caroline, you know me, I'm tall. I was the shortest guy in the room, and they came in there, and some of these guys are plopping on these beds that we just had made and had the new, duvets monogrammed, and they're like, oh, I like these beds, and they're like, oh, and they loved it. And so immediately I was like, okay, it's pretty, but the basketball team can hop down.
It's obviously
here.
comfortable.
It's comfortable. So that made me really, really happy right there. So you just have to think about what your client needs, and sometimes thinking out of the box really means thinking inside the box in a different scope or scale. So,
well, it's a good thing you didn't drop that ceiling too low. Sounds like you got a lot of tall people in there.
We did.
but that drop ceiling, I really think, is what helps make that space so fantastic too.
Thank you.
Because you put so much extra millwork up on the ceiling and really just made it feel like a really cozy space.
It had all the feelings and nostalgia and warmth of an old home. So it was really, unless you truly had read the chapter, you would not have realized that it was a brand new condo building. So
lots of good antiques too.
Yep.
Some great pieces
Fabulous.
with patina. Yeah.
And I'm glad you mentioned not using an Auburn color palette. It didn't really even occur to me. Now, you did kind of do that a little tiny bit in your Oxford project.
Oh, yeah, I did. That was it started as a game day house. So, yeah, there's a navy and red connotation there.
I loved that house as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that one? There was especially the little bunk room with the red check.
Yeah.
So cute.
Okay. So what's the old expression, tell God your plans and watch him laugh or something like that. So our clients, they had a game day house in Oxford and, adorable, great. Well, they decided we're going to retire here. Well, all their grandkids moved to Oxford as well. So like they're building this bunk room like to house all the grandkids who now live on the same street. And so they were doing this because they were thinking, oh, one day maybe they'll come visit for a football game. And now they, spend every weekend with them. So what happened was, Oxford is full of these beautiful kind of, whether it's craftsmen or kind of, early bungalow kind of shotgun style cottages. And so there was a shotgun style cottage. You open the front door, you see straight down out the back door, and it was condemned. Like it really could not be rebuilt. So we did redraw it and worked with a great local architect and local builder, but we kind of drew it. But then we were able to like do a little bit better pitch on the roof, so that way we could have this bunk room upstairs. And then the other thing that was so neat about kind of a theme or color scheme, I love one. If a client's like, hey, my favorite color is whatever, or I've always wanted a yellow dining room, whatever it is, I'm like, I'm going to run with it because it's kind of fun because it's where do you start on a design project? Where do you actually say, okay, this wall is Benjamin Moore XYZ? It's sometimes hard to start. And so when you have that, spark, that first little flame, like, okay, this is where we can go. So then from Ole Miss colors, I was able to think, well, Imari red, could be kind of interpreted, and that Imari red and that sang to buff and that, you can pull those there, and, Hottie Toddy blue could go, well, it goes several shades of blue. And so we ran with it from more of a French blue to the haint blue on the porch ceilings, and give yourself some, inspiration and parameters and then go for it. So that was so much fun. Also great clients and trusted us, and they had some beautiful art as well.
Tell more about the jumping off point, because that's a great insight. And, if you really have if the clients have given you no parameters, and maybe this doesn't happen very often, I don't know. But if they haven't given you any direction in terms of a color palette, what is your where do you start? Because that is, if you can go anywhere, that's hard, because then what is sort of keeping you on a path that's going to be consistent,
That's a great question. So I don't know if I have one very acute answer, maybe a little more obtuse. So that said, if a client has called me and says, I need you to decorate my house, it's just the same thing as me calling my accountant saying, I need you to do my taxes. I can't do this. I was just on the phone with my plumber. He's installing a new ice maker. I can't do it. So they're calling because they're requesting a skill set. And what I have to do is kind of weed through. They're going to tell us what they want without telling us what they want. And so to me, that jumping off point is, oh my gosh, I saw this great, something from Ballard, or, so-and-so has this fabulous new fabric, or, you may have something and it's twirling in your head, or like, okay, I would always love to use that. But honestly, for me, what it comes down to is this. I love that each room has a name, and we started talking about this. Each room has a name: living room, dining room, kitchen, and it does have a form and a function. But kind of even going back to anyone can write a book, well, anyone can decorate a kitchen, but how am I going to do this? So is our client left-handed? Is she going to reach for, is he 6'8", or does she need this much height? Or, so we start getting into the weeds of very personal details very quickly. And then sometimes it's already answered for you, He says, I love red. He actually may mean like, cranberry or burgundy, or, or a different color, ruby. Or she may say, I'm really adverse to the color yellow, but every photo she shows us is a yellow room. So maybe she doesn't like gold, whatever it is. So one of my favorite design professors said that interior design is 90% psychology and it's 9% logistics. The other percent is where the creativity comes into play. So it's not necessarily being creative like, oh, I'm going to put the kitchen on top of the roof and the tree house is where you're going to slide down into your bathroom. No, I mean, we're humans, we're people. We have to live, we have to eat, we have to sleep. So you have to put all those things into the mill, and they work themselves out. But a client will tell you a lot of things without telling you. And so that jumping off point for me usually is at that consultation. I see their artwork. I'm like, okay. They collect Majolica. You know what? Oh, got it. They're a silver pattern. I know that sounds crazy, but a Francis the First girl is going to like this more than that, or whatever it is. So there are some tells kind of at the poker table right offhand that I'm able to decipher. But it does go back to they can't do it on their own. And just like I can't do my taxes or plumbing. So you have to ask someone to help you. And that's okay. That's why we all have jobs.
Okay, so say you've got a big house, like the one that you did in, what was it? Was it Columbus? That was like a new build out on some land. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So you've got a big house, and you've done the living room, and you picked a color palette, and you did the dining room, and you've kind of got all the big rooms. But then you've got some of these sort of secondary spaces: laundry room, mud room, guest bedroom. Are you going in the same direction that you already went, or are you like, okay, we checked the blue, we checked the green, like what's what we haven't used? Like what direction would you go there?
Okay, so did y'all ever, like growing up, you had your favorite toy book, whatever, and you always played, always read, always had those, and then like you'd be cleaning up the playroom or doing your chores, and you realize, I love this ball. This block is, this puzzle. And you kind of rediscover something that maybe a part of you, but you out of sight, out of mind or whatever. Maybe your sister took it to their room or the dog took the ball out of the backyard, but you rediscover it. So once I get those big spaces done, that's kind of where, to me, the discovery of creativity really comes into play. So it's like, for example, Citrus Garden by Schumacher. It's been around a long time. It's lovely.
Fabulous.
It's fabulous. If I put that in a huge living room, I mean, that's a lot of oranges and lemons and everything. I mean, it's a lot. However, in a laundry room where it's contained and I can pull that blue out, that's like not cobalt, but not aqua. I mean, it's like, oh, that's cool. So then those spaces are where to me, the creativity really gets to have its moment. Because in the big rooms and those primary spaces, you really want a touch of neutrality so that every season can shine. A Christmas tree, blue hydrangeas for a summer cocktail party, whatever it is. You want to have seasonal shine, but those spaces are really fun. So to me, that's where I get to really scratch that creative itch. It's not just, an ecru velvet sofa, sage green trim. It's pretty and I love it all the time. But sometimes you just, need that little fun kind of moment. And those spaces like laundry rooms, powder rooms, butler's pantries, bunk rooms, like that allows you to do that.
So you're taking that as an opportunity to do something totally new that you haven't done elsewhere in the house.
Yes. And it's also closed off usually. And so I know that sounds strange. So like if you are all into tortoiseshell and you want a tortoiseshell powder room, ceiling, walls, this incredible jewel tone rug on the floor. And let's say the next day you're not as into it, just shut the door. It's like, to me, your primary spaces, those living spaces, let those have personality, let those have doses of it, but it's those jewel boxes that can be opened and closed and enjoyed for their form and function. And it just is so fun. I'm what's coming to mind also, down on the Georgia coast on Sea Island for a client's powder room is a small room. And we jokingly called it the Delta Lavatory because it was like, it was so tight. I mean, the commode width is about the width of it. But we did this huge pattern paper. And it's so funny how you'll read about it in the magazines and it's in every design book. Use a large scale paper in a small room to appear larger. It did. It did. And so sometimes, that scale of a pattern It's one of my favorites. It's Bird and Thistle by Brunswick, and I love it in every colorway. But in a tight space, what it did was I see the whole vine. I'm like, oh, there's the bird. Oh, there's the thistle. Like it's really cool how it works. In a big room, it gets lost. It kind of becomes like this really big something. So I always love when kind of design 101 really, really works.
One of the things that you mention a couple times in the book is that you like to create rooms for the seasons. And you mentioned seasons just a little bit ago. Can you explain to us what you mean by creating a room for the seasons?
Yeah. Okay, a room for the seasons. Liz, I love this question because I'm such a seasonal person. My mother always joked about she's like, oh, I'm a fall. And I'm like, what does she mean by she's a fall? And she's talking about her color palette, like what looked good on her with makeup and clothes, but I get it. So think about this. A room, if we have the luxury of having ample quantities of rooms, so let's say that you have a room that faces south, that's wonderful, for that light coming in. And it may be a great room, for Ballard etagères to grow your little begonias in the wintertime. But that said, when you have a little bit of ample space, let's say it's a fireplace, I don't sit by my fireplace and read in July. I'm wherever the air conditioner is full blast, that's where I'm going to be. But as soon as that, first nip gets us in the mountains, I am right there by the fire. I cannot wait. So seasonally, we react, we crave a fire, or maybe it's warm stew or whatever it is. So a room for the seasons needs to be able to react to that. Some people completely rearrange their lives for Christmas time and their rooms. And it's because you're bringing a tree into your house. It's like you're bringing this big thing. Or maybe it's a party and you're like, okay, I have to move all the furniture out, but then you have to rent chairs. That's a Father of the Bride quip right there. That's one of my favorite movies. But think about that house. George Banks says, this house is warm in the winter, it's cool in the summer, and looks fantastic with Christmas lights. And I'm like, that's a house, that's a room for the seasons. You can sit by the fire in the wintertime, or you can be removed from it and, be scrolling on Instagram in the AC. But what really makes it happen to me is, your coffee table is the epicenter of that. And I think a coffee table, and Caroline and I have talked about this before, a coffee table needs fruit, flowers, and fire. And so have a bowl of fruit. It may be peaches, it may be green apples, it may be lemons. I know it sounds weird to have a bowl of fruit in your living room, but it tells you what season it is. And it's pretty, and then, or your flowers, your foliage, it's blue hydrangeas, it's June or July, it's in the mountains. I love right now the hydrangeas are kind of this raspberry kind of coral color. And, that shows, hey, y'all, it's this time of year. It's this late September. So all that said is then the fire is like a great candle or maybe even a diffuser, but it kind of engages those senses. So a room for the seasons is not a sterile, grayish, beige, linen homage to nothingness. It's a room that can easily say, oh, it's fall. Oh, it's winter. And it may be the throw that you put over a chair that you only have out there for a few months, or maybe it's summertime and you edit it real clean and you just have a couple stacks of white leather-bound antique books and a seashell on top. There's so many things you can do that just eschew or welcome in the seasons. And I think coffee tables are the best way to do that.
Do you ever, take into account the season when you're building out the color palette of the room?
Oh, yeah.
You do? Okay.
Yeah. Well, the first thing we do, is what way is it facing? Interior design is, like I said, 90% psychology, 9% logistics, and the creativity is this much. The work's been done for us. You can open up any old school design book. Well, if your room faces north, it needs to be these colors. If your bedroom faces, y'all, it's because it's tried and true. It's science, it's art, it's mathematics all together. So you could take the vast world of choices of interior design and kind of condense it to, well, the master bedroom, the primary bedroom, or the dining room, whatever it is, faces this direction. Well, these colors look good in these lights. Paint color is a great example on this. We were working on a project in the Midwest, and we used Faro and Ball color And it's, kind of a Tony paint brand. And our client she really wanted this paint color. And then she loved it so much, she wanted to use it at her home on the coast. It wasn't the same. And so to me, that is really important to understand, is that sometimes, depending on where it is, what direction, makes all the difference in the world. And so that's what we really put into play. We always ask our architects to make sure that they have a compass, or the landscape architects really do that. But we always take a compass out there and know, okay, the living room faces here. And another thing, now that I'm on this soapbox, you didn't know you'd open this can of worms. But
I'm loving it.
Another thing that a lot of people do is with dining rooms and living rooms. They primarily use dining rooms for dinner parties at night, or let's say it's like Christmas dinner or Thanksgiving dinner, darker, moodier. And sometimes the dining room gets like the best view. And I'm like, let's put the dining room like over here and have or make that the breakfast room. So I love when we can kind of get on board like with the architect right offhand, and be able to offer something like that. Like, for example, in the mountains, I have some friends, their dining room's not that big. And they said, well, we don't need a big dining room because we go out to eat. But what had been the dining room originally at this house, they made into a porch, because if you're in the mountains, you want to be on the porch. And I loved how we were able to kind of reconfigure that and just fill it out. Who gets top billing and why? And to me, it's direction, season, and it all kind of starts funneling into place.
And are you thinking when you're setting up the living, or laying out the living room, like this is where the Christmas tree is going to go?
Yeah.
And do you tell your clients like, this is what I would do?
So,
or do they know?
Yes and no. Some people, I'm not kidding. We have had more clients who would say, okay, where do I put my Christmas tree? Like, first question. Like, I don't even know your name yet, and we're talking about a Christmas tree. This is confidential, y'all, but I guess we'll share it with everyone. Like, I like Christmas trees. Like, I don't love that like a tree dictates how a room is designed for 11 and a half months out of the year. So there's this part of me that's like, yeah, I love Christmas tree, but it doesn't have to say like, okay, the house has to be framed, plumbed, wired, like for this, it can be a shorter tree. It could be on a table. It could be, kind of over there, like, and so it's so interesting to me that that's often one of the very first questions that a client will ask me, where's my tree going to go? And I'm like, honey, you have a grand piano. Let's talk about that. Like you have a dining room set for 18 people. Like, we might need that. The tree is there for 2-3 weeks. Like, so one of my favorite clients, she's a Christmas tree in every room kind of girl, and awesome. Love it. Do it. You celebrate it. And she would say, well, where's my Christmas tree going to go in the, whatever room it was? And I just said, well, I guess we'll have to, you'll have to store that sofa that's in front of the window, because that's the best place. Because I knew she wanted it to be seen from outside, so
yeah,
to each their own. But that's my little Christmas tree soapbox. Like,
I'm shocked actually that you're not a Christmas tree guy.
I love a wreath. Give me some garland. Let's womp to womp to womp the mantle. Ooh, I love a mantle all done up. Let's set the table. Let's have some lights outside of the tree itself. Like, I do a tabletop tree. Presents go around. Actually, now presents, I just give everyone a book and a card with money. Venmo, Christmas. I'm not a Scrooge, but I'm like, borderline.
This is the man who just told us we had to decorate our coffee table for every season.
For every season, and you can. And your coffee table can be decorated for Christmas without, a 12-foot spruce, in your... And yes, and don't forget, you said we're going to decorate something for Christmas too for Ballard, so we got to figure that out. And I'll rise to the occasion. I know. No, I will.
Out of it.
We will. No, we will. We will. But like, for example, I have this, I love wreaths. Like, I love a wreath. And you have a great wreath and a ribbon on the door. Like, to me, that says a lot. So I'm probably getting a
Yeah.
lot of flack now, but I think there's other ways.
It sounds like you've got sentimentality for all 12 months. So
Yeah.
maybe by Christmas time, it's a little spent.
Yes. And honestly, here's what it comes down to for me. So we don't do like Christmas decor anymore. That used to be a part of our business. And I think once you have been in the business of selling ribbon by the yard and branches, and then, it can take the jolly out of the holly. So I think that's kind of where I stand. What I love to do for the holidays and for Christmas in particular is I love to have a party. It gives me the excuse, great food. I get to have the music. I get to have the friends over. I get to wear, a new sweater or whatever it is. And that to me is my kind of celebration. And then all my nieces and nephews are young and they get to have, Santa and the trees and all the blow up stuff at their mom and daddy's houses. And I love it.
And you can go visit.
And I can go visit. But silver julep cups with red roses and red berries on the mantle and a wreath and every crepe myrtle lined with, white lights. Bring it on. Let's do it.
I do think you're right, though. Not like you can find a place to work the tree in.
Yeah.
You're going to find a spot for it.
Yeah.
Don't sacrifice comfort and functionality the other 11 and a half months out of the year,
Right.
like you mentioned, just to leave empty space for the tree.
I'm not kidding. Like this family has a baby grand. Like it's been in the family for 3 generations. And like that was in storage. The Christmas tree was the first question. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Other fabulous spaces in the book. I mean, there's so many. Obviously, we got to see your Casher's little cottage, which we also did a house tour of. So I don't know if it's up yet, but oh gosh, it was fabulous.
You're so sweet.
You'll get to see more of that, all of our listeners, when that goes up on our YouTube channel. But I also loved the, was it Martha's Vineyard? No. Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us about that space, because that was also really fun.
If my imagination came to life and it was a village, a place, it'd be Edgartown, Massachusetts, between like August 15th and November 1st. I mean, y'all want to talk about, I love Gilmore Girls. I rewatch it every fall. Well, I mean, I watch it kind of year round, but it's like Stars Hollow meets Grey Gardens. I mean, I know it sounds so wild, but it's everything. And some clients of ours, we've helped them with things in the past, and they're also very dear friends. And that I love, because I'm like, he likes this, she's going to want that. And that kind of is helpful. But she gave us a really neat kind of set of guidelines. And so Martha's Vineyard, in particular, the little kind of Edgartown village, when I say it is cute, y'all, I mean, it like hurts your eyes. It's so adorable. It is just, I mean, nothing is wilted. Now, wait till you have to go in January and February for a site visit and you're freezing on the ferry. That's a whole different ball game. But I know why people want to be there, for that. It is as Americana nostalgia as just about any place I have ever been. And our client said, okay, how do we do red, white, and blue without doing red, white, and blue? And she just kind of said it off the cuff. And I'm like, red is coral. White is more of a cream, more of like linen white. And the blue, it's more of like a cerulean kind of turquoisey, and so then that allowed with that kind of lighter kind of shade of blue, then that kind of caramel taupey check could kind of play in. Instead of red, it's more of that coral Nantucket red, faded from the summertime, and then the white, I always have to quote, we have a painter who always says, is this going to be white or white? And that's a huge difference. And I love like a creamier, more of a warm white. And that is so indicative there. Like the white picket fences and the white houses, all the clapboard, so you don't see a lot of stone, you don't see a lot of brick, you see shakes, you see wood, you see lots of hydrangeas, and those hydrangeas are that blue. They're not like navy, they're more that hydrangea cerulean blue. And that was that kind of inspiration right there. And tight quarters. And so we kind of treated it like a ship, like everything's kind of built in. It's tidy and fun, but it's one of my favorite projects.
I love that you called it a ship because you even have a sea captain in there.
Oh yeah. Oh, and he was from a junk shop of like that's where you find those treasures,
Well, I just loved seeing that. Of course you do coral in so many projects because it's one of your favorites, but I love seeing all the different ways that you can use it because it's really not a color that I think many people play with. No, certainly not as much as you do.
Well, I think it's neutral. I know that sounds weird. I'm wearing a peachy color right now, but coral can be like peach, salmon, even into the more pinky, into raspberry. I mean, Carl's a great guy. You can use Carl just about anywhere. But my mother was very confident. And then my grandmother also, she always said the best dish that a host or hostess can serve is confidence. So don't apologize. Oh, I don't have enough chantilly to set 12 places. Mix it. It's fine. Just serve confidently, love graciously, and that's what people love and remember. And so Mama would use Carl, and she never would say, I'm sorry that our room is this peach color. You know how good it looks with blue and white cash pose on the mantle?
Fabulous.
What do you do at Christmas? Carl and red, they look great together. I love red ilex berries and Carl roses and, greenery. It's beautiful. So I think that's just a part of it. If you don't like it, great. You don't have to use it. But I do think there is some bending of the rules. I don't like to break them, but I do like to kind of bend them. So red, white, and blue, coral, cream, and turquoise.
So pretty. We do have a decorating dilemma.
Oh, okay.
If you want to get to it. I mean, we could sit here and chat all day, but we do have a question from Kayla that we want to get to.
Okay.
Y'all are all ears. So I'm going to read it and then we'll take a stab at it. She doesn't have any questions. I mean, she doesn't have any images.
Okay.
So it's just a question. She says, hey ladies, quick question for y'all. What is the best way to choose paint colors for a new build? I can't test colors in the rooms because the rooms don't exist yet. Should I just narrow down to a few options for each room and then pick one once I can test it in the space? We're trying to make as many decisions and purchases ahead of time as possible. Thanks as always. I love the podcast.
It's a very good question, Kayla.
Yes, and I bet you do this a lot.
So first thing we do is we tell our client, so if Kayla's my client, I'd say, Kayla, you need a finish schedule. And a finish schedule, you can be an Excel spreadsheet, it can be a legal pad, however you want to organize it. But a finish schedule is going to tell you, your builder, your contractor, the craftsman, any of the people so much. So for example, new build, you're probably going to have sheetrock, and sheetrock comes in white. I mean, that's just the color it comes in. So right off the bat, you know that you're going to have a very kind of bright, kind of sterile space. So kind of work from there. You can get paint samples now, peel and stick, or, that are foot by foot, or can order. All the paint companies have them. Create that finish schedule. So when you know your material, so if your hardwood floor is pine versus oak, pine is more honey and yellow, oak is more brown, to darker, warmer brown, or if it's white oak versus heart pine, know your materials, line them up, and know like what planes are meeting what. So if you have, red oak floors, which are more of a red brown, and then as soon as those sheetrock walls go up and they are white, you know that you've got a contrast right there. So maybe that's when you try those paint samples from the 2 or 3 you've picked ahead of time. You don't have to commit right now to paint, but what you do have to commit to, the guts of it, plumbing, you've got to pick out your faucets, your lighting, the contractor's going to need to know, well, is there wood on the wall? Because then he has to frame it differently. It doesn't matter what, what color it's going to be painted. This room is going to be wallpaper. So all those finishes need to be decided really ahead of time. And Kayla, just like any of our clients, we tell them, the first thing we're going to show you is a finish schedule presentation. And we're going to show you what you're walking on, what you're looking at on the wall. We'll even show you some inspiration fabrics. Those are very helpful as well. But one of the first things we're going to show you is your plumbing and your lighting, and then you won't see them again until you move in. So you have to pick those things out first. Paint, Give yourself some grace. It's okay. You can pick 1 or 2 colors now and then try some samples once that white sheetrock is up. And then you'll be able to, kind of go from there. But knowing, is it tile? Is it wood? Is it a brick floor? Or is it, terrazzo? I mean, there's so many things it could be. So I think you've got the first thing to start with is a finish schedule. And that's probably some of the best money you can spend with a designer as well.
That makes so much sense. So smart. So she's picking all the materials first.
Yep.
She wants to, you want her to have like a general direction in terms of maybe where she's going, pick a couple color options. Yeah. You know what? She could even order some of those sampleized stick-on sheets early.
Yep.
And then she's already got them at her house. When the sheetrock goes up, go over, like stick them up there. Yeah. So then she has some options, but she hasn't officially picked her until she's in the room. That makes sense.
I actually think Kayla's ahead of the game because she's already thinking about the finished product. And that's what I do on a design project is I see the finished product and then I have to kind of peel it layer by layer by layer to get down to the studs or crawl space or whatever it is.
It seems like a lot of times people want to have a wall color, like that's where they're starting is the wall color. But to your point, you can kind of go anywhere with the wall color. You can make your own custom color, but you only have so many options in terms of your wood.
Yes,
like
exactly.
Your wood flooring or the wallpaper you're going to use. So,
and like we were saying earlier, sometimes decisions are made for you, and that's great. Then you can have fun with other stuff.
Well, James, what a treat as usual.
Wait, our time's up? I thought we were doing this all day.
I mean, we could, but you're busy. You got other books, new books to write. Are you already working on your next one?
I could be. I don't know. I want to. We need to see if my publisher's game for it. Hey, y'all. I would like to. I love it. I love writing books. I'm working on a real book. I call it kind of like a memoir, like Southern stories of growing up in a small town. That's what I would love to be able to work on as well. But another kind of design coffee table book, all for it. We shall see.
The one that just came out is Home Again, A Return to Gracious Interiors by Mr. James Farmer, the third.
That's right. 1, 2, 3.
Tell everybody where else they can find you, follow you, all that good stuff.
Yeah, on Instagram at James T. Farmer and James Farmer Inc. And I have a shop now, a little store called A Place to Call Home. So you can see all of those. Yep, on Instagram and jamesfarmer.com.
Are you going to have any events this fall?
Yes, coming up very soon, the first weekend of October. We're doing a big kind of launch event at Farmdale, a home and garden tour. And then we'll have kind of a Christmas, kind of a holiday open house at the shop. And we'll be at Mistletoe Market in Perry, Georgia as well. And then follow along, from Charleston to other places around. I'll be whether speaking or signing books at great shops and places around. So follow us on social media and you can see where we're heading.
Perfect. Well, such a treat. Thank you again.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a fabulous book.
You're so sweet, Caroline. Thank you. Liz, thank you.
That's our show. And that's our show. You can find all of the show notes on our blog, howtodecorate.com/podcast.
To send in a decorating dilemma, email your questions to podcast@ballarddesigns.net so we can help you with your space.
And of course, be sure to follow us on social media at Ballard Designs.
Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. And please leave us a review. We'd love to hear your feedback.
Until next time, happy
decorating.